Feel that electric buzz around Soldier Field tonight? Bears News Fan Report, fam? If your heart's racing with every rumor and you're as thirsty for a game-changing splash as we are, do yourself a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Bears News Fan Report right now to stay locked in on every twist and turn. Now, imagine a defense that up to this point has been more trickle than torrent, struggling to generate consistent heat on opposing quarterbacks and too often leaving our secondary exposed. Picture a front four missing that one relentless warrior, whose pressure forces hurried throws, deflates game plans, and turns fledgling drives into 3-and-outs. Could this be the very moment Ryan Poles decides enough is enough and goes all in on a seismic upgrade? Is there an opportunity lurking out there to snag a Pro Bowl-caliber edge rusher who's tormented pocket passers year after year and whose very name sends ripples through offensive game plans? What if the missing piece, the kind of fearless veteran who could ignite Montez Sweat into an even more unstoppable force, is suddenly on the market, waiting for the right call? We've seen the tape. This is a player who notched 14 sacks in the 2023 season, followed up with 12-1-2 last year, racked up tackles for loss in bunches, and earned a reputation as one of the craftiest pass rushers in football. Someone who disguises pressures, stunts inside on guards, and snaps off the edge with the suddenness of a jackhammer. At age 31, he's in his prime window, melding peak athleticism with a seasoned savvy that only playoff runs can forge. Rumors out of Cincinnati suggest the Bengals might entertain offers for this veteran, perhaps a mid-round pick or two, if they believe the return outweighs the risk of his impending contract and age curve. Could Chicago swing a deal dangling a 2026 second-rounder? Might head coach Ben Johnson already be picturing his revamped defense unleashing twice as many blitzes, knowing that pairing this future Hall of Famer with our existing talent would force every opponent to game plan around 2 wrecking balls instead of 1? Think of the chess match. Offenses crafting blindside slide protections for one edge, only to have the other angle collapse their pocket, and quarterbacks suddenly left with nowhere safe to step up. Some skeptics will argue that parting with draft capital is too steep, that locking up a 31-year-old for big money is a gamble. But consider the cost of sitting on the sidelines, watching our defense languish, and the alternative of giving Caleb Williams the gift of extra breathing room in the pocket. This isn't just about sacks. It's about stampeding momentum, defining a defensive identity, and often that identity hinges on a single dominant presence. So, who is this edge-setting marvel poised to don navy and orange? Which veteran pass rusher could be on the cusp of swapping the Queen City for the Windy City? Stay tuned, because when this blockbuster explodes, we'll unpack the contract whispers, the cap gymnastics, and break down exactly how this move could reshape Chicago's destiny, and you won't want to miss a second of it. If you believe the Bears are finally on the cusp of a defensive awakening, hit that like button and subscribe to Bears News Fan Report right now, because we're about to finish what we started. Now, let's pick up the pieces of this rumor and lay out exactly how acquiring Trey Hendrickson could rewrite Chicago's storybook, and why it matters more than any splashy draft pick or shiny free agent signing. Imagine the electricity coursing through the Windy City when Hendrickson and Montez Sweat line up on opposite edges. Last year, those two combined for over 26 sacks, 26 moments of pure chaos for quarterbacks forced into hurried throws and game-changing turnovers. That kind of pressure doesn't just generate stats, it transforms a defense's DNA. Suddenly, offenses can't ignore one side of the line. They must respect both rushers, opening lanes inside for blitzers and stunting linebackers. It's the kind of nightmare blueprint we haven't seen in Chicago since the '85 Monsters of the Midway, when Richard Dent and Dan Hampton terrorized pocket dwellers and set the tone for a championship run. Now, let's talk logistics. The Bengals reportedly covet a mid-round haul, perhaps a 2026 second-round pick plus a conditional fourth, in exchange for releasing Hendrickson. At 31 years old, he's positioned perfectly to make this a 2- or 3-year coup de maître, likely commanding $18 to $20 million per season. But consider the return on investment. In Cincinnati, he led the league in total pressures twice in the past 3 years and earned Pro Bowl nods in back-to-back seasons. He wasn't just sacking quarterbacks, he was collapsing pockets, forcing hurried throws that led to interceptions, and setting the tone for a defense that finished top 10 in yards allowed. Could Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson structure a deal loaded, with performance incentives, bonuses for double-digit sacks, playoff wins, and Pro Bowl selections, to ensure the Bears aren't left holding dead money if age creeps up? That's front office chess at its finest. Picture the immediate impact. In 2024, Chicago's defense ranked dead last in rushing yards allowed and surrendered 68 sacks, the most in the NFL. With Hendrickson on board, those numbers could plummet. Offensive coordinators across the league would be scrambling to account for two elite edge threats, dialing up checkdowns and quick passes, and eliminating those long-developing routes that have been Caleb Williams' bread and butter. That buys time not just for our offense, but for the entire team's morale. Remember how we rallied around Khalil Mack in 2018? The roar in that stadium after his strip sack of Matt Ryan was more than just a sack. It was a declaration that the Bears were back. I can feel that same electricity building around the prospect of Hendrickson charging off the edge, bear clawing at blind sides, and setting social media ablaze with highlight reels. But beyond the tangible, there's the intangible: veteran leadership. Hendrickson is lauded by coaches for his film room obsessive preparation and by teammates for his locker room mentorship. In a system now run by Ben Johnson, who transformed Detroit's offense with relentless emphasis on discipline and attention to detail, having a defensive counterpart who embodies that same ethos could be a game changer. Imagine morning meetings where Hendrickson breaks down film with rookies, teaching them leverage, hand placement, and how to read a tackle's stance before the snap. That level of peer-to-peer teaching is priceless, especially when you consider the Bears' young core on defense, hungry to learn and eager to prove they belong. Contrast that with our division rivals. The Packers fought through a roller coaster of inconsistent pass rush last season. The Vikings doubled down on interior pressure, but still lacked the edge tear that Hendrickson brings. The Lions boasted a formidable front, but Green Bay still found ways to exploit matchups. Chicago, by landing Hendrickson, would seize an edge, literally and figuratively, that shifts the NFC North balance. When we look back at seasons defined by defensive swagger, think the 2000 Ravens or the early 2010 Seahawks, we see that one dominant presence can elevate an entire unit's mentality. Treated correctly, Hendrickson can be that lodestar for the Bears' defense, guiding them out of years of mediocrity into a realm of first-name fear. Of course, there's always risk. No player is immune to the ravages of time, and injuries can lurk around any corner. But the current Bears blueprint already emphasizes rotational depth. Pairing Hendrickson's intensity with rotational rookies and veteran backups ensures that if he misses a snap, the system remains robust. The cap structure can absorb the contract with a bit of creative structuring and performance incentives. Shift risk back onto Hendrickson's agent. It's a calculated gamble, one that many franchises would envy if they had the chance. So here's where we stand. Ryan Poles holding the phone with Cincinnati on the other end, Aaron Rodgers watching. From Fox and Bears Kingdom collectively leaning in, hoping the rumors crystallize into reality. Because if Trey Hendrickson steps onto that Soldier Field turf in navy and orange, we won't just be talking about improved sack totals. We'll be talking about a franchise reborn, a stadium electrified from first quarter to fourth, and a fan base that finally believes in a defense capable of carrying a championship quest. What do you think, Bears faithful? Is Trey Hendrickson the missing piece of our defensive jigsaw, the catalyst for an NFC North resurgence, and the kind of locker room leader who can transform this team from hopeful rebuild to legitimate contender? Drop your thoughts below, and Let's get this discussion roaring louder than any opposing fan could ever hope to overhear. Thanks for tuning in. Stay passionate, stay loud, and as always, go Bears.